What is going on, everybody? We are back here to talk some Dolphins football. Little bit different type of episode now because we finally got some things to talk about, some things to be excited about. Starting first, we haven't talked about this yet. Jacoby, Chris Grier stepping down as GM, mutual parting ways, whatever you want to call it. This man is not in charge of being GM at this point. Your thoughts on Chris Grier? This is something that you've been wanting to happen. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, man. Hallelujah. It made my Friday. It was a long time coming. It's just such a shame it's taken this long, but it had to be done and it couldn't have come at a better time. So I was thrilled and I'm hoping it's the step in the right direction.
Dude, me too, man. I was definitely pumped up. I was excited because of the timing of it, right before the trade deadline, just in case Chris Grier tried to do something stupid and kind of sabotage us. Thankfully, he did that right away. I was kind of excited for the interim head GM. I wanted to see how exactly Ross was going to tackle this trading deadline specifically. But they played it pretty safe, man. What are your thoughts about the GM? Do you think that Stephen Ross is going to hire somebody in the offseason, or what are you looking for as far as a new GM goes?
Yeah, I'm just looking for somebody, first of all, with some experience, somebody with a proven track record, with front office experience that can come in here and finally shape this roster into, a sustainable product. But, at the same time, I'm really concerned about, how this search is going to go. How much leeway is Ross going to give this GM to come in and clean up Grier's mess? Because right now it kind of sounds like Stephen Ross is pulling all the ropes and he's making all the decisions. So I'm very interested to see where this is going to lead to. I really think the entire front office and coaching staff, it just needs a clean slate, but it doesn't look like Ross is going to go in that direction. But there's a couple of ways they're going to go with this, and they really got to pick the right one because other teams in your division are making big, bold moves to build for their future. So you really gotta choose your route wisely here.
Yeah, I'm with you, bro. And especially we were talking about it off air, man. The New York Jets making these big moves, which we are going to touch on in just a bit. And it kind of looks like Miami is kind of in the bottom of that AFC East as far as something to be excited about. You got Drake May doing big things in New England. You got the Buffalo Bills, who the Buffalo Bills are been running the division lately. And now the New York Jets, who have a new head coach, first year, even though he hasn't got off to a great start. But then you also have an enormous amount of draft capital, stuff to get excited about, where the Dolphins are kind of stuck in the middle, which is the worst place you want to be. Is it, are you rebuilding or are you retooling or are you going for a championship? What are you doing? You really don't know right now. And getting rid of the GM was step one. Let's just hope, fingers crossed, that Ross does the right thing and kind of moves on from the head coach and then later on the quarterback down the line.
Yeah, 100%. That's the most concerning part is I don't really think they picked a direction at this trade deadline.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're going to recap the moves they made, but I just really don't think they picked a direction, and I still think this roster is going to squeeze out a few more wins. And, that win against the Falcons, I hope you guys enjoyed your little parade about it, but it didn't do this team any good. Now you're on the outskirts of the top 3 picks, and you got 3 other teams that are clearly tanking in that route. And, the New Orleans Saints, they know they're tanking. The Jets traded away some heavy assets to overload more on some draft capital. So, I just need this organization to pick a direction, even if you're going to go in, even if you're going to go in a direction that I hate, then at least just do it. Make it a little more obvious, but it's a little bit of a head scratcher. You think with Chris Grier gone, you'll start to see some stability and maybe some better choices and decisions. But I think we saw a lot of the same at this trade deadline.
Yeah, and I'm with you. And you might want to add the Tennessee Titans to the list too. Though that's another team that was unloading players to get some draft capital as well. At least they're picking a direction. I'm stunned with the way the Miami Dolphins handled this trading deadline. I thought they were going to be more active. We saw the big news that came out the day before the deadline. I thought that kind of prepared the plate. Like, we got rid of somebody who was a guy that we drafted, a guy who went to college here, and it was a tough pill to swallow. I thought it was going to be just the tone for a bunch of moves. I thought Minka was going to be gone. I thought Bradley Chubb for sure was going to be gone. And they only made just one move. And that move being Jalen Phillips, who was traded to the Philadelphia Eagles for a third-round pick. Listen, I think the Dolphins did very good with this trade, I will be honest with you. I thought with Jalen Phillips' injury history and the way he's unable to bounce back ever since that huge 2023 start, I thought he was going to get a fourth or a fifth-round pick for this. So the fact that we got a third, I get it. It's the Eagles. It might be later on in the draft, but a third is still a third. For a new GM, I do like that return. But what are your thoughts on the trade for Jalen Phillips?
It was definitely, just kind of like an up and down feeling for me. Jalen Phillips, but besides Jalen Waddle was my favorite pick out of that draft. And, he has given us just a ton of memories as a Miami Dolphin, and he just hasn't been the same since the Achilles injury 2 years ago. So it was definitely, a bummer, but I think it was the right move. He's going to be a free agent after this year, and might as well offload what you can get out of him. And, I think the feeling was mutual. He didn't really show much love to Miami on his way out, and he was just absolutely pumped to be going to Philadelphia. And I think the feeling was mutual for the both parties to part ways. But I think it also paints a picture about, how bad this, it really is down there, and how much players just can't wait to get out of there. So, like to sum it up though, it was pretty. It was like sad. I love Jalen Phillips, and I wish him the absolute best, but you hate to see it, but I think it was the right move.
Yeah, I do too. And you've been talking about Phillips ever since we started the show, man. I mean, you've had him for potential defensive player of the year on numerous occasions, man, before those injuries started to pile up. So I know you've been a huge Phillips fan. Yeah. But I think it was time, man. Like you mentioned, bro, it didn't seem like either sides were kind of happy with each other. And, the injuries piled up, and then the contract coming up. You don't know if you want to pay big money to the guy, because the potential's there, but it's just the durability aspect. And how many times have the Dolphins made this mistake in the past where you commit to somebody that's can't be out on the field? So listen, I'm glad they got a third-round pick, but like I mentioned, man, I'm shocked that this wasn't the start of other trades, like a whole fire sale going on. What were your thoughts that this was the only move on the day?
It was pretty disappointing. I really wanted them to match New York's intensity in this trade deadline. I really wanted them to just clean house, have a fire sale, offload a lot of these players. And, the word is like Miami stuck to a value that they put on these players, and they simply didn't get the value back. Okay, I can understand that then. But you're taking a huge risk taking these players into the offseason, some of them getting hurt, or their value to completely keep diminishing because this team is not good. So that's, the risk you kind of run with it. I find it really hard to believe that, Sauce Gardner warrants 2 first-round picks, but Jalen Waddle could warrant one first-round pick, especially on a very friendly contract. So I find it very hard to believe that they couldn't warrant, what they're asking for him. But the same thing, Bradley Chubb, I think he can be a center, like a huge piece to anyone's defense, especially contenders. So it was just disappointing. I feel like you really needed to just offload, tank, and set yourself up for the next few years. But now you're kind of stuck, and anything can go, anything can happen in the second half. So I was very disappointed though.
Yeah, for me, I was expecting Bradley Chubb to get moved, Minka Fitzpatrick to get moved, and I was honestly just completely stunned when the Dolphins offloaded Jalen Phillips, didn't move, and I hear all of this talk like they're taking calls in, they're listening to offers, they're listening to offers about Sealer, they're listening to offers about Jalen Waddle, and I was shocked that they just stood pat. But I will say this. I think if there is a trade for Jalen Waddle in particular, the fact that they took calls and they kind of set their boundary with him, I wouldn't be surprised if they trade him before the draft at some point and kind of gain a little bit extra when it comes to Jalen Waddle. But that remains to be seen. But overall, I am pretty shocked for the outcome of this.
Yeah, I feel like in that kind of scenario, I feel like Waddle has to have a huge second half to warrant like a really good trade on draft night, because this was probably your time to do it. You know, with Waddle having a few great weeks since Tyreek Hill's injury, and get him to a contender that needs him, or a team that lost one of their wide receivers, and try to get as much value for him. But I feel like towards draft night, the momentum is not going to be as high for a lot of teams to draft for a receiver. And, just I feel like Waddle just being the shadow of Tyreek Hill the last few years is probably why his value wasn't so high. But I don't know. That's tough for me to see. But if they can, if they can put together some sort of package to get some value for him in the offseason, I think that's the route you have to take.
Yeah, let's see how it goes. Definitely rooting for a big second half from him, and just some Dolphins losses to help our draft. So let's talk about the rest of the NFL trades. I want to pick your brain here and see on your thoughts on these big moves. So we mentioned this, man. The Colts getting Sauce Gardner and the Jets getting 2 first-round picks in return. What do you think about this trade? Is it a win-win for both?
I guess, but it was egregious to me. Like, what has Sauce Gardner done the last few years to warrant 2 first-round picks? I mean, that man hasn't even been, in the spotlight at all this year, man. And I feel like he's been very overhyped since he came into the league. I think he's a PI merchant, and I think he gets away with a lot of holding calls, which, granted, if they're not called, he's still getting stopped. But 2 first-round picks for him was just egregious to me, man. But I think it just says that the Colts are going all in on this season, and I guess that makes it a win-win. If you're putting in all the chips for this season, then I guess that's the kind of move you got to make to bolster up your defense. But there's just no world where I see him worth 2 first rounders. That was just crazy to me.
Yeah, I found that so shocking. 2 first-round picks. I get it, maybe a first and a third, a first and a fourth, but 2 first-round picks for Sauce Gardner. I found that absolutely shocking to me. But it shows to say that, hey, the Colts are trying to go all in. They don't care. They don't care about the picks or anything like that. They're really trying to take advantage here of this, glimpse of hope that they have this season. But man, the Jets definitely won the trade, in my opinion. Here's another one. Logan Wilson for a 7th round pick. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it was. I guess it's a win-win. I don't know. I'm not sure the Bengals. I'm not sure what the Bengals momentum was in that trade, but I mean, it does help the Cowboys defense that is running thin on the linebacker side. But solid trade. Didn't really steal the spotlight for me though. But I mean, I guess it helps Dallas. But Dallas has to have a big second half if they're going to do anything.
Yeah, Dallas was very active, man. What about this? Jacoby Myers going to the Jaguars. Raiders getting a 4th and a 6th. Thoughts on this one?
I really like this trade for Jacksonville. I think Jacksonville needs to get some sort of separation with their wide receivers. Brian Thomas just not having the year at all that nobody has envisioned, and I think adding a weapon like Jacoby Myers can definitely take some attention off and help him gain some momentum. Trevor Lawrence has been playing really good football. I really like this move for Jacksonville.
Yeah, I love it as well, man. Travis Hunter also down on IR for a couple of weeks. Brian Thomas, as you mentioned, hasn't gotten really of a rhythm with Trevor Lawrence this year. I think adding some depth to the wide receiver room, Jacoby Myers is a solid player, a guy who's proven in this league. I think that definitely helps them. And they're kind of in second place in that division, kind of fighting. Right now, they have the playoff spot. So, that this is definitely a good move to try to stay within that race and try to get a playoff spot. Rashid Shaheed goes to the Seahawks. Saints get a 4th and a 5th. What are your thoughts on this one?
I think that's a good move. I think the Saints getting more draft capital is going to help them in every way they can. I like teams that really stack up on a lot of capital so they can either use it for leverage in a trade. You kind of like what the Niners did, that losing all those coordinators and getting those comp picks, they were able to use them in key trades like CMC. Really like that trade for the Saints. They've definitely picked a direction in tanking, and I think it's going to help Seattle. I think JSN is going to be even more effective now with more weapons on that end, because I think he's just been the only really threat on that Seattle offense. So I think it's a good trade for both sides.
Yeah, me too. And this is what you're talking about, direction, man. Like the Saints clearly know that they're tanking in a way. Let's load up on draft capital. The Seahawks, on the other hand, they see an opportunity here. They're playing, good football with Sam Darnold. Let's go ahead and get somebody for a 4th round pick. Listen, somebody who's proven that's going to help the wide receiving core. So I like that move as well. And then another big splash for the Jets and the Cowboys here. Quinnen Williams goes to the Jets for a 2nd and a 1st. What are your thoughts on this? The Cowboys very busy.
Yeah, I think it's a solid trade for both ends. The Jets get very valuable draft capital. It sets them up with 5 first-round picks in the next 2 drafts. And I think the Cowboys get much needed help on their defensive line, and Quinnen Williams, who has just been a proven, amazing defensive tackle in this league. So I think this is just the epitome of just a win-win trade for both sides.
Yeah, I definitely agree. This guy is a stud, man, at the defensive tackle position. Cowboys get, obviously losing Micah Parsons was big. You can kind of tell Jerry Jones is trying to kind of recover from that and trying to keep this team as relevant as possible by making a lot of different big splashes here. So I think it was a win-win for both when you look at it from that perspective. On to the Buffalo Bills. That's our next matchup here. What are your thoughts on the Bills just beating the Kansas City Chiefs in a game where, honestly, man, it kind of surprised me. I thought KC was kind of gonna get them, man. What are your thoughts on the Bills so far?
Really, I thought Buffalo was going to steamroll Kansas City, if I was honest with you.
Really?
That game was a little closer than I expected. Really fun game. Really fun game. Josh Allen with just another reason why he's just that man. And, this matchup never seems to fail, man. It's just always fun to watch. Coming off with all the momentum now, and hope Miami's ready. Really do. It's going to be a Buffalo home game too. That's for sure.
Oh, definitely, man. Yeah, I was shocked because the way I seen this Chiefs team play ever since having Rice come back, I kind of saw like that old like Kansas City vibe where they were just kind of gonna kick it off here and start rattling off some wins. But Josh Allen just did what he always does, and it just shuts me up, proves me wrong, and just freaking delivers, man. I look at this game on Sunday. It was a good game, and I start to think, man, like, yo, Josh Allen honestly has looked better than Patrick Mahomes this year and last year, 2 straight seasons, which is crazy because Mahomes is on that trajectory where you're talking about GOAT. But if you look at the last 2 seasons, bro, Josh Allen has been better than Patrick Mahomes. What do you think?
I think that is a valuable, a valid statement. I think what Josh Allen has done compared to Patrick Mahomes has been more impressive. I think Josh Allen has had weaker weapons too than Patrick Mahomes, and Josh Allen just went completely God mode last year and took over so many games to help Buffalo with their 15-2 record. I believe so. It was 15-2 or 14-3, one of those two. But I think. I just think when the lights are bright, I think Mahomes has made the better plays, and I think Mahomes has taken care of the ball more than Josh Allen has, and that's why I think Mahomes has come out top in these matchups and has the championships to prove it. But I think this matchup is going to continue to just be a treat for us all. But will we see them in the playoffs? I don't know. I don't think we will this year for sure.
I hope we do, man, because seeing those two play, and specifically in the playoffs, is always a treat, man. Let's talk about keys to victory. I mean, I'm pretty sure the chances is probably not even 1% for the Dolphins to win this game. But what are the 3 keys to victory if the Dolphins were to pull off an upset here?
So, my first key to this game, obviously, is going to be containing Allen and not letting him kill you with his feet, because I think that's just the number one point in any game plan against the Buffalo Bills, and stopping Josh Allen. So I think that one, just makes perfect sense. My second key of the game is battle through the crowd, because Tua, was so uptight about the crowd being a lot of Baltimore fans. Get the fuck over it. You've been in Miami for 5 years. Our fans don't show up in these these high profile games. So just get the fuck over it. Play over the crowd. And my third one is also going to be play disciplined defense. Don't penalize this team, because if you give Josh Allen extra reps, he's going to make you pay for it. But I think those are 3 simple keys. Even if they beat them all, I think they could have I think they have a solid chance at them, but I don't think they're going to at all. So
yeah. My three keys everything has to do with defense, man. Number one, containing Josh Allen. This is a guy who has killed you every single matchup. He owns you. He can run with his legs. He can break tackles. He does it all. Second key is containing James Cook. This is another guy who has torched the Dolphins as well. The Dolphins do not guard the run well. And then my key number three is containing Dalton Kincaid. Either it's him or Knox. They always seem to have tremendous success against the Dolphins. They always get into the end zone. And if you got to try to contain them the best you can. That's the way the Dolphins have a chance to win this game. Do I see that happening? No. And I picked the Dolphins to lose and probably get embarrassed yet again. How about you?
So I'm going to actually throw a bit of a curve here. Because for some reason they show up against good teams, but then they don't show up for bad teams. And they played Buffalo pretty close last time. I'm still going to choose Buffalo to win this game, but I'm going to give it a 17-20 victory for Buffalo. I think it's going to be one of those games where Miami makes a push in the second half, and then they turn it over or they lose it on fourth down, like they always do against Buffalo. So I just have the feeling, I was telling my friends, my girlfriend, I'm like, this is what they do. They make it close against Buffalo and then they fucking drop it. So that's what I think is going to happen.
And that has happened a couple times versus Buffalo, even this season, to be honest with you. So I could see that. I hope so, man. If we could get a nice competitive game with a loss at the end, I will honestly take that, bro.
It would be funny as hell if they beat them. I'll laugh my ass off.
that would be ridiculous. That would be ridiculous. All right. So we both have the Dolphins losing this game. Let's see how it goes. And to wrap up the show, we're going to go with our fantasy football segment. Jacoby, talk to us, man.
Yeah, so I haven't even logged into your league in like 4 weeks, and I literally just did before this show and saw that I'm 0-9 in that. So I've just not missing anything in there, but picked up a win in my main league right now. I am 6-3, jumped up to the first seed, cruising right now. I've taken advantage of some very poor trades from my peers and kind of stacked up on my team right now. So kind of enjoying it. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with my picks this week. Very fun week of football this past week. This, like I said, man, this year has just been a treat. That Chicago and Bengals game was really good. Yeah. Falcons and Patriots was even really good. There was just a lot of matchups this week that I was really into. But starting off with my quarterbacks, I'm going to give Jackson Dart my first start against Chicago, who just gave up 42 points to Cincinnati, and he's going to get over 25 points in my opinion. He's the QB 15, and I think he's going to have his probably one of his best games of the year. So
nice.
That's going to be my first start, and my second start is going to be his opponent, Caleb Williams. I'm picking both of them in this game because I think both defenses are very bad, and I think that they're going to have a shootout again. I don't think it's going to be as much as the Cincinnati and Chicago game, but I think both quarterbacks will put up over 20 points.
Like it.
And now going to my sit-ems, I'm going to be sitting down the man in Jacksonville, and that's Trevor Lawrence. The Houston Texans, again, just continuing to punish quarterbacks on the fantasy level, man. They are still the number one ranked defense, and I'm going to pick him to be sat this week. Plus, he's not rostered in the majority of leagues, so I think you can find better replacements for sure. And my second one is also, I know he's coming off a really big week against the Commanders, but that's going to be Sam Darnold. The Cardinals are playing really good defense. They're in the top 10 as well. And I think Darnold, when he goes up against these better defenses, he's prone to be making mistakes like we've seen before this year. So those will be my two sit-ems.
Man, you were on the money last week. You said stay away from Dak versus Arizona, and that was the right call because Arizona has been solid. I like that Jackson Dart pick as well because he could do a lot with his legs, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And now go to my running backs. I know this man didn't really have a good game against Buffalo, but he rebounded really well against Green Bay, putting up 130 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. And that's Rico Dowdle. He's just been on an absolute tear since his game against Miami. And Carolina has kind of made it clear that he is the man. So I'm going to give him a second consecutive big week, and that's against New Orleans, who I feel like they're just going to be running the ball a lot. He is questionable, but I do see him playing. So he's going to be my first stardom. And if not, get Chuba. So I pick up Chuba if he's not going to play. And then my second stardom is going to be James Cook. I think he's going to have a solid game against Miami. Granted, he is questionable as well, but I feel like he will be practicing tomorrow. So I did pick a couple questionables, but I do think he'll be playing. And he's been averaging, a shit ton of carries. Had 27 carries against Kansas City. I think he has a chance to match that against Miami. So those will be my 2 running back stardoms. And I'm going to keep my sit-ins pretty clear, pretty simple. Stay away from Alvin Kamara at all costs. He's going to be my first sit-em, and my second one is going to be Breece Hall. I think the Jets right now have made it perfectly clear on what their intentions are the rest of the season, and Breece is going up against the second-ranked run defense in the Cleveland Browns. Sit them both, hate them both. So I think it's a solid. I think those are solid lineups so far for the running backs.
Yeah, I love it. That's a guy I thought was going to get traded. They seem to kind of be off Breece Hall.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, going to my wide receivers, this man's been killing it for me, and he put up a huge game against the Patriots, almost amassing 40 points, and that's Drake London. He had 3 touchdowns. Michael Penix has just been his favorite. Drake London has been Michael Penix's favorite target, and I think he's going to have himself a huge game against the Colts, who are have not been really good against the pass. So Drake London is going to be my first favorite start of the week for the wide receivers. And the second one is going to be Chris Olave. Despite being on a tanking team, he is the wide receiver 1, averaging 14 points a game. Had himself a pretty down week against the Rams, but I think he's going to rebound against the Panthers right before going into the bye week.
Nice. I like that.
And for my sit-ems, the Commanders now without Jaden Daniels after that gruesome elbow injury.
Jesus.
And I think Deebo Samuel needs to be a sit this week, even though he's going up against Detroit, who have been pretty bad against the pass as well. But Deebo's still lingering at the wide receiver 23 spot. And I just think with everything going on with Washington right now, I think it'd be safe to probably distance from all of them right now. And for my second sit-em, I'm going to go with Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers, not really the game I thought he was going to have against Miami, but granted it was a blowout and they probably went away from him early. But I think this is going to be a solid sit-em in Minnesota. They are top 10 in defense against the wide receivers, and they'll be playing in Minnesota. So I'm going to give him the sit for sure.
I'm surprised by that one. I didn't know that their defense is that good against them.
Yeah,
sure.
they've been pretty solid for sure.
Okay.
And now going to my tight ends, this man made his return, and he gave me a whopping 43 points in his return against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I'm going to put him up again for a start. Even though he's going against a better defense, that's Brock Bowers. Geno Smith went to him every single time, and he just did not disappoint. He helped me put up a season high 170 points in my other league. So Jesus. I am thrilled that he is back. He jumped all the way up to the tight end 13, and I think he'll get into the top 10 after this week for sure.
Wow.
And going up to my second tight end, I told you guys, I've been telling you guys to just be patient on this one. He was injured in the first few weeks of the season, and God knows when they're going to get Brock Purdy going again. But George Kittle, be patient on him. Get him this week. When the Niners play the Rams, magic seems to happen for that offense. So I will take that matchup any day. Throw Kittle in there for a big bounce back game. And for this week, I'm going to sit Dalton Kincaid. I know you said that the Miami's going to have a huge task of stopping him this week. I just don't think he's going to have a lot of targets. I think I just think Josh Allen is going to, the Bills are going to utilize James Cook a lot. And I think if Miami is simply going to take their best target out of the game, Allen's going to make them pay and, hit other targets as well. I just don't see Kincaid having a big week. I just don't see him needing to have a big week. So that's just my opinion on that one for sure. And then going over to Atlanta, I'm going to give Kyle Pitts the sit as well. I think Penix is going to be utilizing more so London and Bijan Robinson in this game against the Colts, who are just been bad. in general on their defensive end against the receivers and running backs a little bit. I'm going to say if they're going to go to somebody repeatedly, it's going to be London and Bijan. So those are my stardom sit-ems this week. And I hope you guys get some help from them. I hope they work out. And hopefully we have another great week of football.
Yeah, you've been solid, man, on the money. How much points he said Brock Bowers got?
43.
That is freaking ridiculous for a tight end, bro.
Yeah.
That is why you draft that guy so early, ladies and gentlemen. If you didn't, may have to.
I got him in a trade the week he got hurt, and this was my first week finally hitting him or playing him, and I was thrilled. I was pumped.
Damn, unbelievable. That guy is a stud, man. All right, well, there you have it. We will catch you guys next week. Hit the thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel. Follow Jacoby and I on Twitter. And we will see you back here next week. Thanks for joining, everybody. Peace.